The music inside the Met Council Gala pulsed like a heartbeat, echoing through the chandelier-filled ballroom where Manhattan's elite gathered in diamonds and tailored tuxedos. Claire Whitmore stood near the edge of the room, one hand resting on her small but unmistakable baby bump, trying to steady her breath. She felt out of place among the glittering guests, though she had once imagined this life would someday feel like home. She didn't know that tonight would become the night her entire world cracked open. The orchestra shifted into a soft waltz, and the crowd parted as her husband, Ryan Whitmore, strode onto the stage under the golden lights. His tuxedo shimmered against the marble floors, and his smile held the polished confidence of a man who believed nothing could touch him. Claire managed a small smile, hoping he had called her here for something good, something tender. Maybe he would finally apologize for the cold distance between them. Maybe he would reach for her hand the way he used to. But when a young woman in a silver gown joined him on stage, the room fell into a hushed murmur. Ryan wrapped an arm around the woman's waist. "Thank you all for being here," he said, voice rich and proud. "Tonight, I want to introduce someone very important to me." Claire felt her heart stop. "No. Not like this. Not here." The whispers around her grew sharper. "That's his assistant, isn't it? Poor Claire. And she's pregnant." He wouldn't dare. Not in public. But he did. Ryan lifted a champagne flute and announced, "I'm ending my marriage tonight. Claire and I are done. I'm choosing the woman who truly supports me." The crowd gasped. Claire felt the air leave her lungs. For a moment she could only stare, unable to move, unable to speak. Her fingers trembled so hard her phone nearly slipped from her hand. Her baby nudged weakly inside her, as if sensing her devastation. Ryan's new lover leaned into the microphone. "We hope everyone can respect our happiness." A cruel smile touched her lips. And then, as if the humiliation wasn't enough, a video played behind them, edited clips, arranged to make Claire look like she had been unfaithful. Gasps echoed across the ballroom. People turned away from her as if she were something shameful. Claire's knees buckled. Her vision blurred. She tasted salt, fear, and the crushing weight of betrayal. She tried to breathe, but the room spun. The chandeliers above her dissolved into blinding stars. She reached for a table, but her hand slipped. Her entire body felt like it was folding in on itself. When she collapsed onto the cold marble, the last thing she saw was Ryan smirking. She heard his lover whisper something triumphant. And then everything went dark. What Claire didn't know, couldn't know, was that someone in the crowd had recorded the entire scene from a different angle, capturing the truth hidden behind the lies. And that person was already walking toward her unconscious body with the evidence that would change everything. Claire Whitmore woke to the sharp scent of antiseptic and the faint hum of a hospital monitor. For a moment she didn't know where she was. Her eyes fluttered open, heavy with exhaustion, and she blinked at the dim lights above her. The events of the gala rushed back like a wave crashing over her chest. Ryan on stage, the silver-dressed mistress smiling, the video twisting her life into a lie, and the way the ballroom spun before everything went black. She instinctively touched her belly, relieved when she felt a gentle movement beneath her palm. Her baby was still there, still fighting, even when the world felt brutal. A nurse appeared, adjusting Claire's blanket with a kind touch. "You fainted from stress," she said softly. "Your blood pressure was dangerously high. You and the baby need rest. Rest." The word felt like a luxury she no longer deserved. When the nurse stepped out, Claire stared at her reflection in the window. Even through the faint glare, she saw how pale she looked. 29, exhausted, pregnant, and abandoned in front of hundreds of strangers. Yet beneath the fragile surface, something in her eyes had shifted. A woman can only be broken so many times before something fierce rises from the cracks. Claire hadn't always lived in chaos. She once dreamed of a quiet life. Raised in Boston by her widowed mother, she grew up in a small townhouse with creaky floors and warm sunlight. Her mother had always told her, "Strength isn't loud, Claire. It's steady." She worked part-time at a bookstore, studied data analytics at a community college, and hoped life would reward her honesty. When she met Ryan, she believed it had. He was charming, then attentive, ambitious, and full of the softness he later weaponized. He said he loved her simple dreams. He held her hand through late-night walks in Central Park. He promised protection, partnership, a future. She married him believing she was stepping into a shared life, not into a storm. But slowly, the storm arrived. It began with comments about her salary, what she wore, what she ordered at restaurants. Then came the pressure to look more polished for his work events. He bought her a used iPhone and called it an upgrade, then criticized her for not being grateful. He insisted she quit her small freelance work because a CEO's wife shouldn't waste time on pennies. Still, she tried to love him. She tried to make their small apartment feel like home, cooking meals she couldn't always afford, waiting up for him when he came home late. When she found out she was pregnant, she thought desperately that the baby would bring them closer. Instead, he drifted further. Tonight proved he had never planned to stay. As Claire lay in the hospital bed, her phone buzzed on the tray. She reached for it, hands trembling. Dozens of notifications lit the cracked screen: news alerts, cruel comments, strangers labeling her a cheater, a gold digger, a liar. Ryan's lies had spread like wildfire while she lay unconscious. A knock sounded at the door. Claire stiffened, expecting another nurse. But it wasn't a nurse. A tall man in a dark coat stepped inside, removing his hat. His voice was calm, steady, almost too gentle for the moment. "Claire," he said, "I saw what happened tonight, and I have something you need to see." Her eyes widened, breath catching in her throat, because in his hand was a phone playing the real, unedited footage of the gala. And the truth it held would set her entire future on fire. The next morning arrived with a gray, heavy sky hanging over Manhattan, as if the city itself sensed the weight crushing Claire's chest. She stepped out of the hospital with a slow, careful breath, one hand on her belly and the other gripping the thin discharge papers that felt colder than the air around her. Her cheap coat did nothing to block the wind slicing down the street. Cars rushed by, horns echoing between tall buildings, and people hurried along the sidewalk wrapped in thick scarves, unaware of the storm swirling inside her. She had nowhere to go. The apartment she once shared with Ryan was now locked behind a security code he had already changed. The nurse had suggested she call a friend or relative to pick her up. Claire had just smiled weakly. She didn't have relatives who cared, and the few friends she once had faded away after Ryan's success made him too important for her old life. Claire had allowed it, believing that supporting his rising career was the right thing to do. Now she stood alone in the heart of Manhattan, surrounded by towering skyscrapers that felt more like walls closing in. Her phone buzzed with another message from Ryan. She hesitated before opening it. "Please stop embarrassing yourself. Sign the divorce papers. The sooner you accept reality, the better." Attached was a photo of him and the mistress smiling at breakfast in a polished cafe. They looked like the perfect power couple. Claire felt her stomach twist, but she forced herself to inhale deeply and keep walking. She needed shelter, somewhere warm enough to sit and think. She ended up in the marble lobby of the Plaza Hotel, not because she belonged there, but because the revolving doors opened for everyone. The lobby glowed with soft golden lights, its air scented with expensive lilies, arranged in crystal vases. On any other day, Claire might have admired the beauty. Today, she sank into a velvet chair and lowered her head into her hands. Her body was tired, her feet sore, and her stomach clenched with hunger she had ignored for too many hours. Guests passed by in fur coats, carrying designer shopping bags from Fifth Avenue, barely noticing the pregnant woman trembling in the corner. She wanted to cry. She wanted to scream. But she stayed still, breathing through the ache in her chest. "Mom? Are you all right?" a voice asked. Claire looked up to see a concierge approaching her. His posture was polite but firm, a reminder that the plaza welcomed everyone, but only for a moment. "We're very busy today," he said gently. "If you're waiting for someone, I can assist you." She swallowed. "I'm just resting. I'll leave soon." He nodded, though sympathy flickered in his eyes. Outside, snow began to fall in slow, delicate flakes, melting the moment they touched the sidewalk. Manhattan could be ruthless in winter. Claire didn't know how long she could sit in the lobby before someone insisted she leave. Then her phone vibrated again. Another message, this time from an unknown number. "Miss Whitmore, I heard what happened last night. You need a safe place. I can help." Below it was an address. Park Avenue. Claire's pulse quickened. The name attached to the message made her breath catch. Ethan Caldwell. A billionaire CEO she had met only once years ago, long before life taught her how cruel it could be. But why would he reach out now? Why would a man with everything take notice of her at her lowest moment? She stared at the address glowing on her screen, the snow falling harder outside. If she went, everything might change. But she had no idea that stepping through those doors on Park Avenue would drag her into a world she never expected and force her to confront truths she didn't know existed. And what waited for her there was far bigger than help. It was destiny. The snow thickened as Claire stepped out of the plaza, the cold wind biting into her cheeks. Every breath felt sharp, but she forced herself forward. Before she could call a cab to the Park Avenue address, her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Ethan Caldwell or an unknown number. It was Ryan. She almost ignored it. Then curiosity mixed with an aching need to understand made her look. Where are you? We need to talk about the condo lease. I've already taken your name off. Don't make this complicated. Then another message, sent seconds later. And stop playing the victim. Everyone knows what you did. Her throat tightened. What she did? What had she done except love him? Except try to build a home and carry his child? But Ryan wasn't alone in this destruction. There was another force, a calculating, smiling storm standing right beside him. The Mistress, Madison Hart, 26, beautiful, ambitious, and with a cruel spark behind her pretty eyes. She had once worked as Ryan's assistant, then his secret, then his shadow. The rumor inside the company was that she had slept her way up twice before Ryan. Claire always dismissed these stories, wanting to believe in kindness. She was wrong. Madison wasn't just a mistress. She was a strategist. A woman who wanted power the way some people wanted air. And she wasn't working alone. Her father, Gerard Hart, was a board member, one of the oldest, sharpest, and most feared men in the company Ryan worked for. His money built foundations. His influence bent rules. His smile could freeze a room. He had hated Claire the moment he met her. Too quiet, too simple, too useless. He once whispered behind her back at a corporate dinner. Claire wasn't from their world. She wasn't wealthy. She didn't carry herself like the wives who glided through events wearing Cartier bracelets and rehearsed charm. Claire always felt like an outsider, even before life pushed her out completely. The Harts had waited for their chance. Madison pretended to be Claire's friend for months, commenting sweetly on her dresses, offering to arrange spa days, even bringing her tea at work, all while collecting every insecurity Claire ever whispered, every fear, every weakness. And when Claire announced her pregnancy, Madison's smile became sharper. "Make sure you keep him happy," she had joked. "Men get bored so easily." Now Claire could see it clearly. The betrayal wasn't impulsive. It was planned. The edited video, the timed humiliation at the gala, the fast-tracked divorce papers, the public statements. This wasn't a scandal. It was an ambush. Claire wiped her tears with the sleeve of her coat, steadying herself. She had survived humiliation. She had survived lies. She would survive this too. She took a step off the curb to hail a cab when another car pulled up, a black Mercedes S-Class with tinted windows. The door opened, and Madison's cold voice drifted out. "You shouldn't go to Park Avenue." Claire froze. Madison stepped out, her silver coat catching the snowflakes like glitter. Her smile was sweet as poison. "You're making things messy," Madison said. "Ryan is stressed. The board is stressed. Just sign the papers and disappear quietly. It's what everyone expects from you." Claire swallowed hard. "Why are you doing this? I never hurt you." Madison tilted her head, amused. "You existing hurts people like us. You were never supposed to marry him. You don't belong in our world. Accept it." The words sliced deeper than any knife. Then Madison leaned in close, whispering near Claire's ear. "Walk away now, or I promise I'll make the rest of your pregnancy unbearable." "Oh." Claire's heart pounded. For a moment she felt the old fear, the old smallness. But something inside her shifted. Something new. Something fierce. She stepped back, lifting her chin. "I'm not disappearing," she said softly. Madison's smile faded, because behind them, another car pulled up, sleek, dark, quiet. The window rolled down. Ethan Caldwell's eyes met Claire's, and his voice, calm and controlled, cut through the winter air. "Claire, get in. You're safe with me now." "No." And Madison's face turned white as snow. The silence inside Ethan Caldwell's car felt warmer than the heated leather seats. Claire sat stiffly in the back, her hands clasped over her belly as the city blurred past the window. Snow flurries drifted across the windshield, while Ethan spoke quietly to the driver, his tone calm but edged with urgency. The contrast between his controlled presence and the chaos clawing inside Claire's chest felt almost unreal. She still trembled from Madison's threat. The words echoed like a bruise that wouldn't fade. "Walk away now, or I'll make the rest of your pregnancy unbearable." Claire closed her eyes, breathing through the sting. She didn't know which hurt more, the humiliation at the gala, or the realization that people she once trusted felt no guilt tearing her life apart. Ethan watched her through the rearview mirror. His voice softened. "You're safe now, Claire. No one can touch you here." Sign. The gentleness nearly broke her. She swallowed, trying to steady her voice. "Why are you helping me?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he opened a small compartment beside him and pulled out a tablet. He tapped the screen, then rotated it toward her. "I saw the full footage from the gala," he said. "All of it." Her breath hitched. The video popped up, the unedited, raw version recorded by someone in the crowd. It captured every detail the public never saw. Madison adjusting the microphone, whispering instructions to the sound crew, Ryan rehearsing the announcement with a smug smile, and a technician connecting a USB drive containing the manipulated video. It was planned. Every second. Claire felt her heart split open as she watched herself standing alone in the crowd, confused and hopeful, moments before the world collapsed beneath her. She covered her mouth with her hand, trying not to cry. Ethan continued softly. "This was a coordinated setup. They wanted to destroy your reputation before pushing you out of Ryan's life permanently." The shame, the pain, the feeling of being discarded, it all surged back. But this time it was wrapped in anger. She wasn't just a victim. She had been targeted. Ethan leaned back. "You worked at that company for years. You supported Ryan while he climbed. And this is how he repaid you." His voice hardened. "People like him shouldn't be allowed to crush decent people." A heavy tear slid down her cheek. The car pulled up to a tall glass tower on Park Avenue, Caldwell Innovations, the kind of place where million-dollar ideas were born. The lobby glowed with white marble and quiet, modern luxury. Claire hesitated before stepping out, feeling small and out of place, but Ethan stood beside her and offered an arm for balance. Inside, the warmth and faint scent of cedarwood eased her shaking muscles. They took a private elevator to the top floor, opening into a spacious office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan's skyline. Snow fell softly over the city, making everything feel distant and unreal. "Why show me this?" Claire whispered. Ethan folded his hands. "Because you deserve the truth. And because you're stronger than you think." She shook her head. "I don't feel strong. That's because they spent years making you believe you were nothing," Ethan replied. "But I know better, and soon the world will too." Claire lowered her gaze, overwhelmed. The baby kicked gently, reminding her she wasn't alone. Ethan walked toward a small cabinet and pulled out a folder. "I need to show you one more thing." Claire frowned. "What is it?" He hesitated, giving her a careful, searching look. "It's about your late mother." Her blood ran cold. "My mother?" she whispered. "What does she have to do with any of this?" Ethan opened the folder. Inside was a document with a signature Claire recognized instantly. Her mother's. And beside it was Ryan's father's name. Claire stared at the document as if it were written in another language. Her mother's familiar signature sat at the bottom in looping, elegant handwriting. But it was the name above it, Charles Whitmore, Ryan's late father, that sent a cold wave rolling through her chest. Her legs weakened, and she had to grip the edge of Ethan's desk to stay standing. What is this?" she whispered. Ethan spoke gently, but his voice carried a weight that made the air feel heavier. "Your mother and Charles were business partners years before you were born. They invested in a technology prototype that later became the foundation of Whitmore Industries. But when your mother fell ill, she couldn't fight him in court. Charles walked away with the patent and the money. She never received a cent." Claire pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. Her mother, who worked 2 jobs. Her mother, who skipped meals so Claire could eat. Her mother, who apologized every Christmas for not affording gifts. "All this time," Claire whispered. "She struggled because of them?" Ethan nodded. "She never told you because she didn't want bitterness to shape your life." Claire sank into a chair, numb. She felt the weight of 2 generations of betrayal crushing her mother's stolen future, and her own shattered one. Tears slid down her cheeks, heavy and uncontrollable. She tried to breathe, but each inhale broke apart like glass inside her chest. It was too much. The lies, the humiliation, the threats, the isolation, the cruelty. And now this a betrayal that existed before she was old enough to understand the world. Her baby kicked softly, but instead of comfort, she felt guilt wash over her. She whispered into the quiet office, "I don't know how to survive this." One hell. Ethan knelt beside her, his voice steady. "You don't need to survive it alone." But his kindness only made the dam inside her burst open. Claire cried quietly at first, then with a shaking grief that pulled from the deepest parts of her. She cried for her mother, for her baby, for the life she'd been denied, for the love she thought she had, for the woman she'd lost inside herself. Ethan placed a glass of water near her. "Claire, listen to me. You're not weak. You're wounded." "Shin-san." She shook her head. "I'm tired. I'm so tired." Her voice cracked. "Ryan took everything. My home, my reputation, my dignity. I don't even have enough strength to fight him." "Yes, you do." Ethan's voice softened. "But you need rest first." Rest. She hadn't rested in months. Not truly. Even before the scandal, she had lived in constant fear of disappointing Ryan, walking on eggshells to avoid his temper or his cold silence. Now, the exhaustion was bone deep. Ethan stepped aside, giving her space to breathe. Snow drifted outside the tall windows, blurring the city lights. The skyline looked distant, unreachable, like the life she once imagined she'd have. Claire wrapped her arms around herself, trembling. "Why now?" she whispered. "Why is all of this coming down at once?" "Because truth has its timing," Ethan said quietly. "And sometimes it arrives like a storm." She let out a choked laugh. "A storm. That's exactly how it feels." "Sunder." An assistant knocked softly and entered, carrying a blanket. "Mr. Caldwell asked me to prepare a room," the assistant said with calm professionalism. "So Miss Whitmore can rest safely." Claire's throat tightened again. Kindness felt like pain right now, but she followed the assistant down the hallway into a quiet guest suite with soft lighting and a wide window overlooking Park Avenue. The room smelled faintly of cedar and lavender. A warm blanket waited on the bed. As she lay down, the weight of the world finally settled over her. She closed her eyes, letting the darkness pull her under. She didn't know how long she slept, but when she woke, someone was standing in the doorway. Not Ethan. Someone who was never supposed to know where she was, and the look in his eyes told her he wasn't there to comfort her, he was there to finish what he started. Claire pushed herself up in the bed, her heart pounding against her ribs as the shadowy figure stepped into the light. For a split second, she prayed she was dreaming. But she wasn't. Ryan Whitmore stood in the doorway of Ethan Caldwell's private guest suite, inside a building with biometric security, restricted elevators, and guards who silently scanned every movement. He shouldn't have been able to get inside. Not without help. His presence was wrong. Too quiet, too controlled. "Ryan," her voice wavered. "How did you est?" He shut the door behind him, the soft click echoing like a threat. "Do you have any idea what kind of mess you're creating?" He hissed. "Showing up here? With him?" Claire blinked, stunned. "I didn't show up with him. I collapsed. He helped me." But Ryan stepped closer, jaw clenched. "You made me look like a fool at the gala." She stared at him with disbelief. "You humiliated me in front of 1,000 people." Ryan scoffed. "You could have walked away quietly. But no, you had to make a scene. And now you've run to one of the most powerful men in the country. Does that look innocent to you?" Tears stung Claire's eyes, not from fear this time, but from the crushing weight of Ryan's delusion. "You set me up," she whispered. "You and Madison." He froze for half a second, just long enough to confirm the truth. Then he shrugged, crossing his arms. "You were dragging me down. I needed a partner who fits my future. Madison understands the game. So, destroying my name was a game to you." He smirked. "It worked, didn't it? The world thinks you cheated. That's your reputation now. Good luck rebuilding it." Claire felt a cold chill run through her. "You're a father, Ryan." He waved his hand dismissively. We can discuss that after the divorce. Maybe I'll allow supervised visitation if you behave." Her breath hitched. Her whole body trembled. "Get out." But Ryan shook his head. "No. You're going to sign the documents. Today. You're going to stop contacting my colleagues. And you're going to leave Manhattan. Permanently." Claire pressed a hand protectively over her stomach. "I'm not signing anything." Ryan's eyes darkened. "Then I'll make sure you lose the baby. Not physically." He leaned in, voice cold as steel. "But emotionally. Financially. Legally. When I'm done, you'll wish you had walked away." For the first time in her life, Claire felt something inside her break, not the soft part, the hopeful part, but the part that once feared him. She wasn't afraid now. She lifted her chin. "You don't get to threaten me anymore." He laughed under his breath. "Who's going to stop me? Your dead mother? Your imaginary lawyer? Ethan Caldwell? He doesn't care about you, Claire. Men like him don't save people like you." But before she could respond, the doorknob twisted sharply. Ryan turned. Ethan Caldwell stood in the doorway, his expression carved from stone. "Get out." Ethan's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Every syllable vibrated with the authority of a man who controlled empires. Ryan straightened, trying to recover his arrogance. "This is between my wife and me." Ethan stepped forward, closing the distance in a single, measured stride. "She's not your wife anymore. And she's not your victim." "True." Ryan opened his mouth to argue, but Ethan continued, voice low and dangerous. "Security has already been notified. If you're still in this building in 90 seconds, you'll be removed from Park Avenue in handcuffs." For the first time, Ryan hesitated. Claire watched him struggle between pride and fear. He chose pride. "This isn't over," he spat. "You're making a mistake, Claire." Then he left. The moment the door closed, Claire finally exhaled. Her whole body shook. Ethan stepped closer, kneeling beside her. "You're safe now, but there's something else you need to know." She looked up, eyes blurred with tears. "What?" Ethan took a deep breath. "Your mother didn't just lose money to Charles Whitmore." Her heart stilled. "She left you something hidden because she knew this day would come." Claire's pulse raced. "What did she leave me?" Ethan met her eyes. "A fortune. And the key to bringing the Whitmore family to their knees. Home." And the revelation was big enough to rewrite everything Claire believed about her life. Claire sat frozen, her fingers twisting the blanket as Ethan's words echoed around the quiet suite. A fortune. Not a savings account. Not a small inheritance. A fortune. Something powerful enough to shake the Whitmore name, a name that had crushed her mother and nearly destroyed her. Her voice trembled. What exactly did she leave me?" Ethan rose, motioning for her to follow him to a glass conference table near the window. Snow drifted outside, settling over Park Avenue like a thin white veil. The skyline glowed beneath it, a city built on steel, secrets, and ambition, yet somehow it felt softer from up here. He slid a leather folder toward her. "This," he said quietly, "is your mother's trust. Everything inside it becomes legally yours once you sign this acknowledgement form." Pombret. Claire opened it with trembling hands. Inside lay documents, account numbers, property deeds, and a valuation sheet so high she gasped. She wasn't just inheriting money. She was inheriting power. "This can't be real," she whispered. "My mother worked overtime just to keep us afloat. She wore the same winter coat for 10 years. Because Charles Whitmore stole her share," Ethan replied gently. "But before she passed, she made one final deal, one that finally paid out after her death. And she protected it until you were old enough to face this." Claire rubbed her forehead. Her mother had been shielding her all along, even from the grave. But the weight of it didn't feel like victory. "Not yet. I don't know how to handle any of this," she admitted. "I'm not strong like she was." Ethan pulled out another chair and sat beside her. Not in front, beside. "As an equal. You're stronger," he said. "You survived a humiliation that would have destroyed most people. You protected your baby when no one protected you. And you walked out of that gala alone." His voice softened even more. "Strength isn't always loud, Claire. Sometimes it's surviving the moments designed to break you." Her eyes filled with tears she didn't wipe away this time. Ethan continued. "But rebuilding yourself, won't be easy. You're carrying pain from years of emotional pressure. You're dealing with pregnancy stress. You need a team not to fight for you, but to lift the weight long enough for you to breathe again. Claire swallowed. A team? He nodded. I've already contacted someone, Dr. Jane Loring. She specializes in trauma, especially for women who've endured emotional manipulation. She's expecting your call. She stiffened. Therapy. The word made her chest tighten. I don't know if I can talk about all of this, she said weakly. That's exactly why you should, Ethan replied, his expression gentle but firm. Moments later, an assistant knocked softly and entered. She was carrying a warm bowl of soup, a glass of water, and prenatal vitamins. For Miss Whitmore, the assistant said. Her voice was calm, not pitying, not judgmental, respectful. Claire managed a quiet thank you before the assistant slipped out. She stared at the steam rising from the bowl. When was the last time someone brought her food with kindness? Her voice cracked. Ethan, why are you doing all of this? He held her gaze, no hesitation in his eyes. Because someone should have taken care of you a long time ago. Then he added, almost too softly. And because your mother once helped me when she didn't have to. This is my way of honoring her and protecting you. Claire looked away, overwhelmed. No one had spoken to her like that in years. She sipped the soup, letting warmth fill her stomach. Slowly, she felt a strange sensation rising inside her, not fear, not sadness. Something new. Resolve. Her baby kicked as if agreeing. Claire straightened in her chair. If I accept this inheritance, what happens next? Ethan leaned forward. Next, you rebuild. We strengthen you legally, financially, emotionally. Then when you're ready, you choose how to use your power. Her fingers tightened around the bowl. And Ryan? She whispered. The corner of Ethan's mouth lifted, though his voice stayed calm. With everything your mother left you, Ryan Whitmore won't know what hit him. Claire exhaled slowly. For the first time since the gala, hope flickered. But she didn't know yet that the next person about to enter her life, the next CEO, would bring a twist she never saw coming. And his arrival would change her war into something far more personal. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the tall windows of the guest suite, warming the room with a soft, golden glow. Claire opened her eyes slowly, feeling the unfamiliar comfort of a real mattress beneath her. For a moment, she forgot the chaos of the past few days. For a moment, she felt safe. Then reality returned. Her life had exploded. Her marriage was destroyed. Her name had been dragged through tabloids and office gossip like trash in the wind. And now, she suddenly owned a fortune too large to comprehend. She sat up carefully, one hand on her belly. The baby shifted softly, as if reminding her that she wasn't alone in the fight. A gentle knock sounded at the door. Claire, it's Ethan. May I come in? She pulled a sweater around her shoulders. Yes. Ethan stepped inside, carrying a tray with breakfast eggs, whole wheat toast, fruit, and a cup of warm tea. He set it on the small table near the window. You need strength, he said calmly. You have a long road ahead. Claire felt a flutter of gratitude. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to. Just get healthy. The rest will follow. After she finished eating, Ethan led her down a quiet hallway into a private office lined with glass walls and soft lighting. Papers, charts, and monitors filled the room, but everything was organized with precise intention. This, Ethan said, placing a laptop in front of her, is where we begin. She blinked, nervous. Begin what? Rebuilding you, he replied. Piece by piece, skill by skill, thought by thought. He pulled up a program filled with financial dashboards, data models, and charts. You already have a strong analytical mind, Ethan continued. You worked in logistics, predicted trends, improved efficiency. You're smarter than you think. And now, that intelligence is your weapon. Chanel. Claire stared at the screen. Rows of numbers blurred together. She felt a familiar wave of self-doubt choke her. I don't know if I can do this. You can, Ethan said firmly. You survived humiliation. You survived emotional manipulation. You survived a man who tried to erase your voice. Learning these skills is nothing compared to what you've already endured. Bald. He guided her through the basics of market analysis, how investors read trends, how boards make decisions, how companies rise and fall. Slowly, the chaos on the screen began to make sense. Hours passed in quiet concentration. And for the first time in a long time, Claire felt her mind awakening. Each formula, each data point, each financial model felt like another piece of armor she had never been allowed to wear. She wasn't just learning. She was evolving. Around noon, another knock interrupted them. Ethan glanced at the security screen and gave a small smile. "He's early." Claire asked. The door opened, and a tall, sharply dressed man entered, dark suit, polished shoes, confidence radiating off him like heat. Marcus Hale, 40 years old. CEO of Hale Securities. Known for making ruthless market moves that left entire firms trembling. But when he saw Claire, his expression softened just a little. "Mans. Whitmore," Marcus said, offering his hand. "I've heard a great deal about you." Claire shook his hand nervously. "Only good things, I hope." Marcus gave a faint, amused smile. "Only the truth. And the truth is, you're stronger than you realize." She blinked. "Why are you here?" "Because," Marcus replied, taking a seat across from her, "you're not just a victim of a scandal. You're an heiress to a fortune tied directly to one of the biggest companies in this city. And whether you want it or not, you're about to step into a corporate battlefield." Claire felt her heart stutter. "A battlefield?" Marcus nodded. "Yes. And if you want to survive it, you'll need to learn how to fight back, not with anger, not with fear, but with strategy." Ethan crossed his arms. "Marcus is here to help train you." Claire's breath caught. "Train me for what?" Marcus leaned forward, eyes sharp and focused. "For war." Her pulse raced. "And believe me, Claire," he added quietly, "your husband has no idea who he's up against now." And in that moment, Claire realized her transformation had only just begun. Ryan Whitmore woke up in the penthouse he once bragged about, but the morning felt different, tight, cold, and unsettling. Madison was nowhere to be seen, though her perfume lingered in the air. Ryan rubbed his temples. The past few days had slipped out of his control in ways he didn't like to admit. Claire was supposed to be gone by now, broken, humiliated, erased from his life. Yet something about her disappearance bothered him. He reached for his phone. 3 missed calls from HR. 2 from legal. 1 from Gerard Hart, Madison's father, the board member who pulled strings in the shadows. Ryan forced a confident smirk. "It's fine," he muttered. "Everything's fine." But the moment he stepped into the sleek elevator leading to his office, his phone buzzed again. A text from Madison. "We need to talk. Now." Ryan frowned. He typed back, "Later, busy." A second message came instantly. "It's urgent." He ignored it, stepping out into the metallic hallway of Whitmore Industries. The glass doors closed behind him, and the hum of computers filled the air. Assistants whispered as he walked by. Their eyes flicked to him, then away quickly, too quickly. He didn't like it. Something was off. He reached his office and froze. Gerard Hart was already there, sitting behind his desk like he owned the place. Madison stood beside him, arms crossed, eyes sharp and impatient. Ryan's stomach dropped. "Gerard? Madison? What's going on?" Gerard didn't look up from his phone. "We have a problem." Ryan forced a laugh. "If this is about Claire." "It is," Gerard interrupted. "And it's much bigger than you think." Madison lifted her phone and pressed play. The video from the gala appeared, not the edited one she posted online. The real one. Every whispered instruction. Every detail of the setup. Every piece of evidence that would destroy them both. Ryan's chest tightened. "Where did you get that?" Madison glared at him. "The same question I was going to ask. I told you to burn everything that could expose us. But apparently you can't follow simple directions." Ryan stepped forward. "Madison, calm down." "No," she snapped. "You said Claire would fold. You said she was weak. You said she didn't matter. And now half the city is posting this video on private forums. The public version hasn't leaked yet, but it's only a matter of time." Gerard finally stood, straightening his suit. "You promised me this would be clean," he said coldly. "You said we'd remove her quietly. Instead, you staged a spectacle that's now circling donors and board members." Ryan swallowed hard. "I didn't know someone recorded it." That's the point," Gerard growled. "You don't think ahead. You don't calculate risk. And now the company is exposed." Madison stepped closer, her voice icy. And do you know who she ran to after the gala? Ethan Caldwell. Ryan stiffened. What? Gerard nodded. Caldwell Innovations. And rumor says she's staying in his building. Ryan felt the floor tilt beneath him. That's impossible. Why would he help her? Gerard raised an eyebrow. Maybe because he hates me, or maybe because he's always admired her talent, or maybe because you pushed her straight into the arms of a billionaire who actually knows how to handle power. Madison crossed her arms. You didn't just lose your wife, Ryan. You handed her to someone who can destroy you. Ryan staggered back. No, Claire would never. You don't know her at all. Madison snapped. You never did. Gerard grabbed his coat. Fix this, Ryan. Or I will. Ho. They walked past him, leaving him standing in the center of his own office, isolated, exposed, shaking. His phone buzzed again. A notification. Trending. Unedited gala footage leaked. Ryan's hands went numb. He opened the video. The truth was out. His downfall had begun. And for the first time he felt fear. Deep, paralyzing fear. Because he finally understood something. Claire wasn't the one falling apart. He was. And her rise would become the very storm that wiped out everything he built. Claire sat in the quiet corner of Ethan's training office, her hands resting on the cool surface of the MacBook Pro he'd given her to use. Lines of numbers, projections, and company filings filled the screen. Her eyes ached, but she didn't look away. For the first time in weeks, she felt control returning to her fingertips slowly, carefully, but undeniably. Marcus Hale entered the room with the calm confidence of a man who handled billion-dollar decisions before breakfast. His presence shifted the air instantly. How are you holding up? He asked. Claire inhaled slowly. Learning. Trying. Pushing through. Marcus gave a nod of approval. Good. Because today, we prepare your first strike. She blinked. My first what? He took the seat across from her, placing a thick folder on the table. Ryan used you, humiliated you, lied about you. Now you're going to hit him where it hurts most, his standing in the company. Claire's throat tightened. I don't want revenge for revenge's sake. This isn't revenge, Marcus corrected firmly. This is accountability. Ethan walked in next, holding a coffee for himself and warm chamomile tea for Claire. He set the cup gently in front of her. This is about protecting your future. And your child's. Claire wrapped her hands around the warm cup, absorbing the comfort. What do I need to do? Marcus opened the folder. Inside were stock charts, ownership data, and timelines. Whitmore Industries has been unstable for years. Ryan's father kept the company afloat, but since his death, Ryan's made reckless decisions. The board has been looking for a reason to remove him. And you're going to give them one, Ethan added. Claire frowned. I don't even work there anymore. Marcus leaned in. Exactly. Which means they can't accuse you of acting out of professional resentment or internal politics. You act from the outside with the legal authority your inheritance gives you. Claire stared at the documents. I don't understand. Ethan placed a hand on the table. Your mother didn't just leave you money, Claire. She left you equity shares in companies she once helped build, including one that holds a stake in Whitmore Industries. Claire froze. A connection she never imagined. You mean I'm already an investor? You're more than an investor, Marcus said. You have voting rights. Her pulse quickened. What are you saying? Ethan looked her directly in the eyes. You can call for a preliminary review of Ryan's conduct. Financial misconduct. Ethical violations. Abuse of corporate resources. Everything he's actually done. Claire felt her lungs tighten. I can't do that. I wouldn't even know where to start. Marcus shook his head. You don't need to know everything. That's what we're here for. Ethan added, all you need is courage. The rest will guide you through. Claire stared at the documents again. Her hands trembled. She wasn't used to power. She wasn't used to being heard. But when she thought of her mother working double shifts, being cheated by Charles Whitmore, dying with her truth buried something inside, Claire hardened. She wasn't doing this just for herself. She was doing it for a legacy stolen long before she was born. She lifted her chin. What exactly do I need to sign? Marcus's expression shifted approval mixed with respect. 5 documents. They initiate a formal inquiry. Once filed, the board must investigate Ryan's leadership. Claire exhaled, steadying her shaking fingers. Let me read them. Ethan watched her closely, admiration growing in his eyes. She read each page slowly, carefully, and as she did, she felt something she hadn't felt since the gala. Strength. She signed the final document with a steady hand. Marcus took the folder, rising to his feet. It's done. Claire stood as well. What happens now? Ethan gave a slow, knowing smile. Now? The board begins to see who the real Whitmore is. Claire swallowed hard. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of the war she had stepped into, but she had no idea, absolutely no idea, that her move would trigger a chain reaction inside the company she could never have predicted. And the first person to fall wouldn't be Ryan. The following morning, Manhattan woke to headlines that hit the business world like a hammer against glass. Claire didn't see them immediately. She was still in Ethan's office, reviewing more documents, her hair tied into a loose ponytail, her baby shifting softly beneath her sweater. She felt calmer than she had in days, focused, determined. She didn't yet know that outside Caldwell Tower, chaos had already begun. Ethan stepped into the office, holding his phone with a tight expression. Claire, he said, you need to see this. She looked up, confused. Is something wrong? He placed the phone in her hands. Across major business platforms, Forbes, Market Watcher, Wall Street daily notifications flashed like warning sirens. Whitmore Industries under internal review. Board members question recent decisions. Anonymous shareholder calls for audit. Claire's heart jolted. Is this because of what I signed? Yes, Ethan said. The board was already unsettled. Your petition was the final push. She swallowed. Does Ryan know it's me? Not yet, Ethan replied. But he will. Send her. Before she could respond, Marcus Hale stormed through the doorway, eyes sharp as steel. His presence always shifted the atmosphere, but today there was tension woven into his stride. We have a situation, Marcus said, tossing a printed sheet onto the table. Claire scanned it quickly. Employees had leaked concerns. Investors were asking questions. A private forum for mid-level executives had begun circulating a thread titled, "The Real Story Behind the Gala." Her chest tightened. I didn't want this to go public. Marcus crossed his arms. Claire, this isn't public yet. But it's growing. People are talking because someone inside the company uploaded 2 screenshots from the unedited gala footage. Claire's hands went cold. No face reveals, Ethan added quickly, but enough to prove the video was manipulated. She sat back in the chair, overwhelmed. I never wanted to start a media storm. I just wanted justice. Marcus's voice softened, ever so slightly. This isn't a storm, Claire. Not compared to what they did to you. This is the truth pushing itself into the light. Ethan nodded. And the board is noticing. As if on cue, Ethan's phone buzzed. He stepped aside to answer. Claire watched him, trying to read the tension in his shoulders. A moment later, he returned. That was one of my contacts, he said. Someone from the Whitmore board leaked something to the press. Claire braced herself. What now? Ethan handed her another headline, freshly published. Ryan Whitmore temporarily relieved of key decision-making authority. Board to conduct formal ethics review. Claire covered her mouth. He's removed? Marcus corrected, temporarily. But it's the first time the board has ever questioned a Whitmore. Shock rippled through her body, not joy, not triumph, something heavier, something like the beginning of justice. But mixed with the pain of everything she had endured to reach this moment. Claire, Ethan said gently, you didn't destroy anything. You opened the door for accountability. She nodded slowly, still absorbing the news. But the moment of quiet didn't last. A sharp alert sounded from her phone, a message from an unknown number. Claire's pulse jumped. She hesitated, then opened it. It was a video. A shaky recording. Someone filming the office floor of Whitmore Industries as security escorted a senior manager out of the building. Underneath, a text. They're blaming the leak on him. But he's not the one who spoke. Be careful. Claire's stomach twisted. Innocent people were getting pulled into the fire. Marcus took the phone from her. This is what happens when a company feels threatened, he said grimly. They purge the wrong people first. Send. Claire pressed a hand to her stomach, breathing through a wave of guilt and fear. "This wasn't what I wanted," she whispered. Ethan kneeled beside her chair. "Claire, listen to me. You didn't ask for war. But they declared war on you the moment they humiliated you at the gala. What's happening now is the consequence of their own corruption, not your courage." She swallowed hard, forcing herself to steady her breathing. "But you need to understand something," Marcus added quietly. "This is only the beginning." Before Claire could respond, the office door swung open. Daniel Mercer, CEO of the largest logistics chain in the Northeast, stepped inside. His expression was unreadable, but when he spoke, his voice held something Claire had not heard yet. "Urgency." "Claire," Daniel said, "we need to talk. Something happened today at my company. Something connected to yours." He paused. "And I believe someone is targeting you." "Die?" And suddenly, the storm outside seemed far smaller than the one forming around her name. Daniel Mercer stood in the doorway, his tall frame blocking the light behind him. He was usually composed, calm, measured, unshakably strategic. Today, there was tension in his shoulders, something cautious in the way he scanned the room before stepping inside. Claire straightened, heart thudding. "Daniel, what happened?" He closed the door behind him, lowering his voice. "Something is brewing inside my company. Something tied to Whitmore Industries and to you." Claire felt a chill work its way down her spine. "Me? Why?" Daniel approached, placing a file gently on the table. "Because someone leaked information about your presence here at Caldwell Innovations, and someone else is watching your movements from inside the industry." Ethan stiffened. "Do you know who?" Daniel shook his head. "Not yet. But I have reason to suspect this isn't random." "What?" Marcus moved closer, expression sharpened. "Explain." Daniel opened the file. Inside were screenshots, anonymous posts from private industry networks, encrypted messages, even snippets from invitation-only investor forums. Claire stared at the words. "The ex-wife isn't broken. She has backing. Someone is training her. Why is Hale Securities connected to her name? Caldwell meeting at Park Avenue with unknown woman." Claire's breath caught. "They're watching me?" Daniel nodded. "More than watching. They're predicting your next moves." Marcus leaned over the table. "Whoever is spreading this has access to high-level circles. Or," Daniel countered, "someone wants to spook her before she gains momentum." Claire felt the pressure building behind her ribs again. First humiliation, then threats, then surveillance. It was too much. "Why would anyone be afraid of me? I'm just—" Ethan cut her off gently. "Claire, stop. You are not just anything. You're an heiress to a forgotten fortune. You hold voting power. You've already triggered an internal audit at Whitmore Industries. And you have 3 CEOs standing between you and the people who want you silenced." Daniel nodded. "Power makes enemies, even when you don't want it." Claire pressed a trembling hand to her forehead. Her baby moved, as if responding to the spike of stress. She breathed shallowly. "I didn't ask for any of this." "No," Marcus said quietly. "But they asked for war when they targeted you." Daniel opened a second folder, this one thinner but somehow heavier. "There's more. One of my senior analysts found this in an anonymous data dump sent to my company servers this morning." He slid the page toward her. Claire's stomach dropped. It was her medical report. Her blood pressure levels. Her stress notes. Her prenatal vulnerabilities. Her personal information was floating around corporate channels like gossip. She felt sick, violated. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "How did they get this?" Daniel exchanged a glance with Ethan. "Someone leaked it from a hospital staff login." Claire covered her face with both hands. Shame burned through her, not because she had anything to be ashamed of, but because her most fragile truths were being exploited. Ethan knelt beside her again. "Claire, look at me." She forced her hands down. "You are not alone," he said. "We're going to find who leaked this, and we're going to shut them down." Daniel added, "But you must be careful. This level of intrusion means someone wants to destabilize you emotionally." "Why?" Claire whispered. Marcus answered, his tone razor sharp. "Because emotional collapse is easier to manipulate than financial power." She shuddered. Daniel took a breath. "There's one more thing. Someone contacted my office pretending to be your legal representative. They demanded information about your whereabouts. 4. Claire felt her entire body tense. Who? We don't know yet, Daniel said. But the voice sounded young, female. Claire froze. Madison. Ethan's jaw clenched. She's trying to pull Claire back under their control. Marcus exhaled sharply. We need a counterstrike. Daniel nodded. And I think I know where it begins. But Claire, it requires you to do something difficult. She swallowed. What? Daniel met her eyes. You need to return to Manhattan, publicly. Wund. Claire's heart slammed against her ribs. No, I can't. Not after everything. You can, Daniel said, voice steady. And you must. He slid one final paper across the table. An invitation. To a high-profile industry event. An event Ryan and Madison would attend. An event where the elite would expect Claire to show up broken or not show up at all. But Daniel wasn't suggesting survival. He was suggesting strategy. Ethan placed his hand over hers. We'll be with you. Marcus nodded. You won't walk alone. Claire stared at the invitation. Her pulse trembled. Her baby shifted again. She exhaled. Somewhere between fear and fury, something inside her hardened into resolve. Because the next time the world saw Claire Whitmore, she would not be the woman they destroyed. Madison Hart paced across her luxury apartment, her heels clicking sharply on the polished marble floor. Outside the penthouse windows, Manhattan shimmered beneath the winter sun, but inside, Madison felt something she had never felt before. Fear. She glanced at her phone for the 20th time, scrolling through the newest business alerts. Headlines about Whitmore Industries' investigation filled her screen. Every few minutes, more gossip forums whispered Claire's name like a growing chant. Whitmore heiress? Gala humiliation exposed. Caldwell and Hale involved. Madison's stomach twisted. This wasn't supposed to happen, she muttered, pacing again. She was supposed to disappear. But Claire wasn't disappearing. She was becoming louder, larger, dangerous. The door burst open, and Ryan stumbled in, his hair disheveled, panic written across his face. You saw the news? He demanded. Madison glared at him. Of course I saw the news. Do you think I'm blind? Ryan threw his hands in the air. The board suspended half my authority. And they're demanding documents I don't have. Sen, you should have destroyed the evidence, she snapped. I thought I did. Madison's jaw tightened. The truth was simple. Ryan wasn't smart enough to handle a scandal. She had carried him this far, manipulated him into believing he was in control. But now, everything they built, their affair, their plans, their rise to power was slipping. And all because Claire refused to stay broken. Madison grabbed a glass of water and downed it in one sharp gulp. We need to get ahead of this, she said. Someone is feeding Claire information. Someone powerful. Ryan sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. It's Caldwell, he muttered. He hates my father's legacy. He's always wanted to take the company apart piece by piece. Madison blinked. And why would he suddenly care about Claire? She's nobody. She's not nobody, Ryan snapped. He stopped. Madison narrowed her eyes. She's what, Ryan? Ryan hesitated, then whispered. She's connected to Whitmore funds. She inherited something tied to our family business. Madison's jaw dropped. You're telling me your pathetic little wife is secretly rich? Ryan flinched. Not just rich, connected. Madison threw the empty glass across the room. It shattered against the wall. You idiot. If she has even a fraction of the shares, she can vote against you. Ryan paled. I thought it was nothing. My father always said that partnership was dead. I didn't think her mother and... Oh, shut up about her mother. Madison shouted. Why didn't you tell me this months ago? Ryan rose abruptly. Because I didn't think she had the courage to use it. Madison's laugh was cold, sharp. Well, she does now. And someone's teaching her. She stopped pacing, grabbing her phone again. We need to destroy her before the board realizes she's useful, Madison said, voice turning low and dangerous. We need to make her unstable. Ryan looked horrified. What are you suggesting? Madison smirked. 1. You should have destroyed the evidence, she snapped. I thought I did. Madison's jaw tightened. The truth was simple. Ryan wasn't smart enough to handle a scandal. She had carried him this far, manipulated him into believing he was in control. But now, everything they built, their affair, their plans, their rise to power, was slipping. And all because Claire refused to stay broken. Madison grabbed a glass of water and downed it in one sharp gulp. "We need to get ahead of this," she said. "And no matter how much money she has, influence comes from stability." Ryan sank back into his seat, conflicted. Madison leaned closer. "We can end her before she even begins." But before she could continue, her phone buzzed with a new notification. She froze. It was a photo. Claire, standing inside a luxury showroom, wearing a tailored coat, talking to a high-profile designer. The caption underneath was worse. "Claire Whitmore returns to Manhattan stronger than ever." Madison felt her heart drop into her stomach. "No," she whispered. "No, no." Ryan looked up. "What is it?" Madison's voice shook with unfamiliar panic. "She's coming back. A beat. She's coming back publicly. A longer beat. And Ryan, she's not broken at all." Ryan swallowed hard. "What do we do?" Madison backed away from the window, voice trembling. "We pray. Because the woman we tried to destroy is rising, and she's coming for everything we stole." Claire stood in front of the full-length mirror inside Daniel Mercer's private office suite, adjusting the soft cream-colored coat draped over her shoulders. The fabric glided smoothly beneath her fingers, warm and elegant. She barely recognized the woman staring back at her, stronger, sharper, steadier. Her face wasn't covered in makeup, but in resolve. Her eyes weren't swollen from crying. They were clear with purpose. Her baby kicked gently, as if offering strength. Ethan, Marcus, and Daniel stood behind her, each keeping a respectful distance but watching her with quiet intensity. It wasn't the gaze of men pitying a broken woman. It was the gaze of men preparing to witness a rise. "Ready?" Daniel asked. Claire nodded, though her heart pulsed with nerves. "As ready as I can be." "Remember," Marcus said, fastening the last button of his coat, "today you're not confronting Ryan emotionally. You're positioning yourself strategically. This is chess, not a shouting match." Ethan smirked slightly. "Ryan doesn't even know the game has started." Claire inhaled deeply. "What exactly do we do?" Daniel stepped forward, placing a folder in her hands. "Today, you file the first evidence packet to the Whitmore board. The real, unedited footage of the gala, plus the documents about your mother's stolen patent percentage. 5, Marcus added, along with preliminary proof of Ryan's misconduct, his falsified expense reports, his unauthorized business dinners with his mistress on the company card, and internal policy violations. Claire hesitated. "This is enough to get him fired." Marcus didn't blink. "Good." Ethan rested a supportive hand on Claire's shoulder. "It's your choice, Claire. You can stop at any time." She shook her head immediately. "No, I'm not stopping." "Sen." Her voice trembled not with fear, but with conviction. "This isn't revenge," she continued. "This is justice, for my mother, for my child, for me." The three CEOs exchanged a brief, impressed glance. "Then let's begin," Daniel said. They entered the sleek private elevator and descended into the building's executive floor. The polished marble, soft lighting, and minimalist design made everything feel deliberate. Powerful. Claire felt small for only a moment until she remembered who she was stepping into this world for. The elevator opened. A group of suited professionals turned at once and froze. Claire Whitmore, the woman tabloids mocked last week, now stood beside three of the most influential CEOs in Manhattan. Whispers spread like sparks. "That's her. Isn't she supposed to be ruined? Why is Hale with her? Is that Caldwell? Something big is happening." "Jen." Claire swallowed, keeping her chin lifted. Marcus leaned in just enough for her to hear. "Good. Let them talk." They reached the board's private correspondence office, a discreet, glass-walled room monitored by a single executive assistant. The assistant stood abruptly when she saw the group. "Mr. Hale, Mr. Caldwell, Mr. Mercer. How may I help?" Claire stepped forward, her voice steady. "I'm here to submit a legal packet for the Whitmore Board of Directors. It is an official filing from a voting shareholder." The assistant blinked, stunned. "Yes, Miss Whitmore, of course." Claire placed the folder on the desk. "This includes my petition, evidence of misconduct by Ryan Whitmore, and documents proving the mishandling of my mother's investment. I'm requesting immediate review." The assistant nodded quickly, her hands trembling as she stamped the intake form. "It will be processed today." Claire signed where instructed, then stepped back. Her heart thudded loudly in her chest. It was done. She had officially placed the first knife at Ryan's career. Not out of cruelty, but out of truth. Daniel smiled softly. "Well done, Claire." Marcus gave a single approving nod. "Your mother would be proud." Ethan looked at her with quiet admiration. This is only the beginning. Before Claire could respond, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. She opened it, hands trembling. It was a single sentence. "You just declared war. See you soon." Her stomach twisted. Marcus leaned forward. "Who sent it?" Claire's eyes widened. "It's from Gerard Hart." Silence fell. Daniel exhaled slowly. "Then prepare yourself, Claire. Because when the Harts fight back, they don't fight fair." And the next attack would hit her where she least expected. Ryan stood at the window of his office on the 42nd floor, staring down at Manhattan like the city had personally betrayed him. The morning sun reflected off the glass towers, but nothing felt bright. His phone vibrated nonstop, emails, missed calls, frantic messages from department heads who suddenly didn't know how to speak to him. He ignored all of them. His hands shook as he read the latest update. Board received formal misconduct petition. Investigation immediate. He hurled the phone across the room. It crashed into the wall, pieces scattering on the floor. "How?" he muttered. "How did she get this far?" Behind him, the door opened. Madison slipped inside, shutting it quickly. Her expression was tight, her usual smug confidence replaced by a brittle kind of panic. "You need to calm down," she whispered. "Calm down?" Ryan spun, eyes blazing. "I'm being pushed out of my own company." Madison crossed her arms, but her voice wavered. "Look, Gerard says we can still fix this. We just need to find out who's helping her." Ryan scoffed. "You don't need to know everything. That's what we're here for." Ethan added, "All you need is courage. The rest we'll guide you through." Claire stared at the documents again. Her hands trembled. She wasn't used to power. She wasn't used to being heard. But when she thought of her mother working double shifts, being cheated by Charles Whitmore, dying with her truth buried something inside, Claire hardened. She wasn't doing this just for herself. "You're blaming me?" "I'm blaming you," Ryan shot back, "because you were the one who told me Claire was weak. You said she wouldn't fight. You said—" Madison cut him off sharply. "Well, she is fighting. And unless you want to lose everything, you'd better start thinking like someone with a brain." Ryan froze. She wasn't wrong. But anger clouded everything. Shame. Fear. He'd spent months crafting the perfect downfall for Claire, painting her as unstable, unfaithful, insignificant. And yet here he was, spiraling while she rose. The irony burned. Before he could respond, his office phone rang. Madison and Ryan exchanged a glance. The board's internal extension flashed on the screen. He forced a stabilizing breath and answered. "Ryan Whitmore." A cold voice replied, "Effective immediately. Your access to board archives, quarterly planning files, and executive analytics is suspended." Ryan gripped the phone. "Excuse me. On what grounds?" "Pending investigation," the voice said. "You may continue fulfilling day-to-day duties, but all strategic authority is revoked." "Who authorized this?" Ryan demanded. Unanimous vote. His stomach dropped. "Even Gerard?" A pause. He abstained. Then the line went dead. Ryan's knees nearly buckled. He dropped into his chair, breath shallow, eyes unfocused. Madison approached slowly. "Ryan, what does this mean?" "It means," he whispered, "they think I'm guilty." Madison paced, rubbing her temples. "We need a new plan. Something to destabilize Claire. Something emotional. Something that makes her look incapable." Ryan slammed his fist on the table. "No. I am not dragging the baby into this." Madison spun around. "Then what do you want to do? Sit here and watch her take everything?" He didn't answer. He didn't know. But Madison wasn't finished. With possibility. But before Claire could speak, Marcus's phone buzzed sharply. He read the screen, his expression darkening. "We have a problem," he said. Ethan leaned forward. What now? Marcus turned the phone so they all could see. A breaking news alert. Claire Whitmore spotted at Caldwell Innovations. Exclusive. Ex-wife of Ryan Whitmore makes secret alliance. Claire's blood ran cold. Someone had leaked her location, her training, her alliances, everything. He said it's deeper than we think. And that if you don't fix this, Claire won't be the only one taking you down. Ryan felt his stomach twist. Something was unraveling from the inside. Not Claire, not the CEOs. Something older, hidden, and far more dangerous. And when the truth finally surfaced, Ryan would wish Claire had been the only enemy he had. Snow dusted the windows of Caldwell Innovations as evening settled over Manhattan, casting the skyline in a bluish glow. Claire sat at the long conference table on the top floor, her hands cradling a warm cup of tea. She felt the baby shift beneath her ribs, almost as if sensing the tension thickening in the air. She was exhausted. But there was no time to rest, not now. Ethan entered first, closing the door quietly behind him. His expression was calm, but his jaw was set in a way she had learned to recognize. Something serious was happening. Right behind him came Marcus Hale, already rolling up the sleeves of his expensive shirt, his eyes sharp and analytical. And then Daniel Mercer, holding his phone with a grim expression as he took his seat. All three CEOs. In one room. For her. Claire swallowed. What's going on? Marcus didn't waste a second. We have new information, and it changes everything. Daniel placed his phone on the table and tapped the screen. A paused video appeared, grainy but unmistakable. The angle came from an office camera inside Whitmore Industries. Watch, Daniel said quietly. He pressed play. The footage showed Ryan pacing in his office, yelling at Madison. Papers flew. He slammed drawers, tore open files. His body shook with panic. Claire watched, her stomach twisting. She wasn't used to seeing him like this, out of control, fragile in a way he'd never shown her. Then the door burst open. Gerard Hart stepped in, with possibility. But before Claire could speak, Marcus's phone buzzed sharply. He read the screen, his expression darkening. We have a problem, he said. Ethan leaned forward. What now? Marcus turned the phone so they all could see. A breaking news alert. Claire Whitmore spotted at Caldwell Innovations. Exclusive. Ex-wife of Ryan Whitmore makes secret alliance. Claire's blood ran cold. Someone had leaked her location, her training, her alliances, everything. Someone wants the Whitmore empire to fracture from the inside. Marcus added, and they're using you as the catalyst. Claire felt her breath catch. But why me? Daniel leaned forward. Because you're the only person with a legitimate claim to challenge Ryan. You're a bloodline outsider with insider leverage. You're the perfect storm. She pressed a hand to her stomach, trying to steady herself. Who could it be? Ryan said his father had no siblings. Einer. His father lied, Ethan said gently. We all suspected it. Now we have confirmation. Claire blinked rapidly, absorbing the shock. So I'm in the middle of a family war I never asked for? Marcus nodded. Yes, and it's escalating. Before she could process the weight of it, Ethan opened a folder and slid it toward her. This is why we called this meeting. Inside were documents, fraud reports, asset transfers, offshore records, each one pointing to Ryan's deepening misconduct. Daniel spoke quietly. Claire, the Whitmore family built an empire through deceit. Your mother was one of their victims. And now someone wants you to finish what she couldn't. Marcus added, but to do that, you need full protection. We're putting together a joint task force, legal, financial, and security. Claire's breath trembled. You're all doing this for me? Daniel shook his head gently. Not for you, with you. Ethan offered a faint smile. And because you're the only one who can bring the truth into the light. Claire's throat tightened. Marcus stood, pulling up a city map. The board will meet in 5 days. That gives us time to prepare. Daniel pointed to several highlighted zones. You'll need to appear publicly. Not as a victim, but as a contender. Claire's pulse quickened. A contender? Ethan nodded. Yes, for your future, and for your rightful power. The room felt heavy, but not with fear. With purpose, with possibility. But before Claire could speak, Marcus's phone buzzed sharply. He read the screen, his expression darkening. "We have a problem," he said. Ethan leaned forward. "What now?" Marcus turned the phone so they all could see. A breaking news alert. Claire Whitmore spotted at Caldwell Innovations. Exclusive. Ex-wife of Ryan Whitmore makes secret alliance. Claire's blood ran cold. Someone had leaked her location, her training, her alliances, everything. Daniel stood quickly. "This wasn't an accident. Someone wants you exposed." Ethan's voice hardened. "And they're getting bolder." Claire felt her heart race. Then Marcus delivered the final blow. "And they're coming for you, Claire, tonight." Because the moment she became a threat, she became a target. Night fell over Manhattan like a heavy curtain, the city lights flickering through the windows of Caldwell Innovations. Claire stood at the center of the private conference room, her hands trembling as she gripped the edge of the table. The three CEOs surrounded her like a protective shield, Ethan on her right, Marcus on her left, Daniel at her back. Their presence steadied her heartbeat, but the rising storm outside still made her chest tighten. The news leak wasn't small, it wasn't accidental. Someone wanted her exposed. "Security has increased all floors," Ethan said, his voice low but controlled. Daniel stood quickly. "This wasn't an accident. Someone wants you exposed." Ethan's voice hardened. "And they're getting bolder." Claire felt her heart race. Then Marcus delivered the final blow. "And they're coming for you, Claire, tonight." Because the moment she became a threat, she became a target. Night fell over Manhattan like a heavy curtain, the city lights flickering through the windows of Caldwell Innovations. Fear crept in again, trying to choke the strength she had built. But the elevator chimed before she could voice another thought. Ethan lifted a hand. "Stay behind us." The doors opened. Claire's breath froze. Gerard Hart stepped out impeccably dressed, expression cold enough to freeze air. His presence swallowed the room. Behind him, two corporate lawyers and a silent assistant entered, closing the elevator doors. Gerard's gaze fell on Claire like a blade. Daniel stood quickly. "This wasn't an accident. Someone wants you exposed." Ethan's voice hardened. "And they're getting bolder." Claire felt her heart race. Then Marcus delivered the final blow. "And they're coming for you, Claire, tonight." Because the moment she became a threat, she became a target. Night fell over Manhattan like a heavy curtain, the city lights flickering through the windows of Caldwell Innovations. With possibility. But before Claire could speak, Marcus's phone buzzed sharply. He read the screen, his expression darkening. "We have a problem," he said. Ethan leaned forward. "What now?" Marcus turned the phone so they all could see. A breaking news alert. Claire Whitmore spotted at Caldwell Innovations. Exclusive. Ex-wife of Ryan Whitmore makes secret alliance. Claire's blood ran cold. Someone had leaked her location, her training, her alliances, everything. Daniel stood quickly. "This wasn't an accident. Someone wants you exposed." Ethan's voice hardened. "And they're getting bolder." Claire felt her heart race. Then Marcus delivered the final blow. "And they're coming for you, Claire, tonight." Because the moment she became a threat, she became a target. Night fell over Manhattan like a heavy curtain, the city lights flickering through the windows of Caldwell Innovations. Daniel stood quickly. "This wasn't an accident. Someone wants you exposed." Ethan's voice hardened. "And they're getting bolder." Claire felt her heart race. Then Marcus delivered the final blow. "And they're coming for you, Claire, tonight." Because the moment she became a threat, she became a target. Night fell over Manhattan like a heavy curtain, the city lights flickering through the windows of Caldwell Innovations. Because she wasn't that woman anymore. Marcus stepped to her side. "You're in no position to threaten her." Daniel folded his arms. "Your company is collapsing. Your son is under investigation. Your mistress is panicking." Ethan stepped forward, his voice dangerously calm. "And the woman you tried to erase now holds enough leverage to dismantle everything you built." Gerard's eyes sharpened. "She doesn't have the courage." Claire inhaled slowly. Then she stepped out from behind the CEOs. "I have more than courage," she said, her voice steady. "I have evidence. And I'll present it to the board in 2 days. They will hear the truth. My truth. My mother's truth. And your lies." Gerard's composure cracked. "Just for a second. You'll regret this," he hissed. Claire met his glare without flinching. "No," she whispered. "You will." Security appeared in the doorway. "Sir, you need to leave," the guard said. Gerard straightened his coat, his eyes darkening. "This isn't over," he snarled. He stepped into the elevator, the doors closing sharply behind him. Silence settled over the room. Claire's legs weakened, and she gripped the table for balance. Ethan placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "You did it," he murmured. Daniel nodded. "You stood your ground." Marcus looked at her with new respect. "Now they know what you're capable of." But Claire barely heard them, because as the elevator descended, she realized something terrifying and empowering at once. She had just declared war openly, fully, fearlessly. And there was no turning back. The morning of the board meeting arrived with a cold, unforgiving wind sweeping across Manhattan. Claire stood outside the towering headquarters of Whitmore Industries, a building she once entered quietly beside her husband, always a step behind him. Today, she walked toward it with 3 CEOs flanking her like silent guardians, Ethan to her right, Marcus to her left, Daniel behind her. A formation not of protection, but of recognition. People stopped on the sidewalk. Phones rose. Whispers spread like ripples in dark water. "That's her. Isn't she supposed to be hiding? She looks different." Claire kept her eyes forward. Her heart pounded, but her steps stayed steady. She had spent the last few days rebuilding her confidence piece by piece. Now she was walking into the place where they had once destroyed her. Inside, the lobby buzzed with tension. Employees lowered their voices as Claire passed. Security guards exchanged wary looks. Even the receptionist stiffened when the 4 of them approached. "We're here for the board meeting," Marcus said. The receptionist nodded quickly. Of course. They're waiting upstairs." "How?" They entered the private elevator, ascending silently to the top floor. Claire kept her hand on her belly, feeling her child move, sensing the storm brewing above them. When the doors opened, the sound hit her first. Raised voices. Arguments. Chows. The boardroom was already splintered before she stepped inside. 7 board members argued in heated bursts, while Ryan stood at the center of the room, sweaty, pale, and unraveling. Madison hovered near the far wall, arms crossed tightly, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. Gerard Hart leaned against the head of the table, gripping his cane with white knuckles. When Claire entered, the room fell silent. Every head turned. Ryan's eyes widened, and for a moment he looked like a man seeing a ghost. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. Claire didn't flinch. "I'm a voting shareholder. I belong here." Murmurs rippled through the room. One board member cleared his throat. "Miss Whitmore, we received substantial documentation from you, including the unedited gala footage." Another added, "and evidence of financial misconduct tied to company expenses." Ryan snapped. "They're lies. She's manipulating you." Claire stepped closer to the table. "The only person who manipulated anyone here is you, Ryan." His face twisted. "You're pathetic. You can't even fight your own battles. You need 3 CEOs to babysit you." Ethan's voice dripped with controlled fury. "She doesn't need us. We're here because she earned our respect," Daniel added. "And because your father wronged her mother. The truth is finally catching up to your family." Ryan stiffened. "You have no proof." Claire reached into her coat and placed a file on the table. "I do," she said softly. The board members leaned forward as she opened the evidence. Decades, old agreements, legal documents showing her mother's investment, and letters. Charles Whitmore wrote acknowledging her contributions, letters he never intended anyone to see. Gasps filled the room. Gerard Hart slammed his cane. "This meeting is not about ancient history. It's about a pattern," Marcus interrupted. "Generational theft, abuse of power, and your attempt to silence the only person who knows the truth." Halt. Madison stepped forward suddenly. "This is ridiculous. Claire is unstable. She has medical issues. She fainted at the gala." Claire's voice cut through the room, clear and steady. "Yes, I fainted. Because of what you did to me." Madison's mouth snapped shut. A board member turned to Ryan. "Is it true you purchased dinners, hotel rooms, and gifts for Miss Hart using company funds?" Ryan's silence was answer enough. Another member lifted the printed screenshots. "And this edited video meant to frame your wife. Did you approve it?" Ryan's face reddened. That's not. It's taken out of, you don't understand. Claire stepped closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. You didn't destroy me, she whispered. You freed me. Then, aloud, she said, I request the board remove Ryan Whitmore from his position pending full investigation. Silence. Then, I second the motion, said the head board member. Hands rose one by one. All except Gerard Hart's. Ryan stared, horrified. No, you can't do this. This is my company. The head board member replied coldly. It stopped being yours the moment you turned it into your weapon. Madison backed away, shaking her head. Ryan, do something. But there was nothing left to do. The vote was unanimous. Ryan Whitmore was officially removed. Security entered the room. Mr. Whitmore, you need to come with us. Ryan's face twisted in rage and disbelief. Claire, you'll regret this. You hear me? You'll. He never finished. Security dragged him out as cameras flashed from the hallway. Madison followed in a panic, yelling at anyone who would listen. The door slammed shut. Silence settled. Then the head board member turned toward Claire, voice full of quiet awe. Miss Whitmore, what would you like to do next? Claire exhaled, her chest finally loosening. I'd like to take back everything they stole. But she didn't know. The final twist waiting for her would change not just her revenge, but her entire future. The boardroom felt strangely quiet after Ryan's removal, as if the walls themselves were taking a long breath after years of holding secrets. Claire stood still, trying to absorb everything: the vote, the humiliation Ryan finally faced, the truth about her mother coming to light, the power she never knew she held. Her baby moved gently, as though sensing the shift in her world. Ethan stepped closer. It's over, he murmured. Marcus crossed his arms, his gaze softening. No, it's beginning. Daniel nodded. What happens next is your choice, Claire. She looked at the three men, their unwavering presence, their belief in her strength, their quiet support through every painful step. For the first time in months, her shoulders relaxed, and her lungs took a deep, steady breath. A board member cleared his throat. Miss Whitmore IV, given your mother's share and the evidence you provided, we'd like to offer you an advisory seat until the full audit is complete. Claire blinked in surprise. Me? On the board? You've earned it, another member said kindly. And it's time someone honest sits at this table. Claire felt emotion rise in her throat. Gratitude, disbelief, relief. But before she could respond, the door opened again. This time, security entered calmly. Maze Whitmore, one guard said. We've located the source of the medical information leak. Claire froze. Who was it? The guard stepped aside, and a young woman in hospital scrubs walked in, trembling. Claire's breath caught. She remembered that face. The nurse who had checked her vitals during her fainting spell at the gala. The nurse who had whispered, "You poor thing," while Madison hovered nearby. Claire's stomach twisted. You leaked my information? The nurse shook her head frantically. I didn't want to hurt you. I swear. They threatened me. They said they'd get me fired. They said they'd blacklist me from every hospital in the state. Who? Ethan asked sharply. The nurse swallowed. Gerard Hart and Madison Hart. They came to the hospital the morning after the gala. They said I needed to clarify your condition. They made me sign something. They told me to keep sending updates. Mull. Claire's heart ached, not with anger, but with sorrow for how many innocent people the Harts had manipulated. Daniel stepped forward calmly. You're safe now. Tell the truth, and you'll be protected. The nurse nodded, tears welling. I'm so sorry, Miss Whitmore. Claire exhaled gently. You're forgiven. The guard escorted the nurse out not as a criminal, but as someone finally safe. Marcus looked at Claire with quiet admiration. Even after everything, you still choose compassion. Today, she walked toward it with 3 CEOs flanking her like silent guardians, Ethan to her right, Marcus to her left, Daniel behind her. A formation not of protection, but of recognition. People stopped on the sidewalk. Phones rose. Whispers spread like ripples in dark water. That's her. Isn't she supposed to be hiding? She looks different. Claire kept her eyes forward. Her heart pounded, but her steps stayed steady. Daniel placed a reassuring hand on her back. If you ever need a position in the industry, My door is open. Marcus smirked. If you ever want to run a company, I'll train you myself. Ethan stepped in last, his eyes gentle. But for now, you need rest. Real rest. Claire smiled softly. I think I'd like that. They escorted her out of the building, past crowds of reporters whose microphones and cameras surged forward like a wave. But this time, Claire didn't shrink. She stood tall. Shoo. She closed her eyes briefly. My mother raised me that way. Ethan added softly, and you honor her every time you lead like this. There was warmth in his voice, something unspoken but unmistakably tender. Claire felt it. It wrapped around her like a quiet embrace. The board meeting concluded with signatures, formal statements, and arrangements for the independent audit. When it ended, Claire stepped out into the hallway, exhausted but lighter than she had felt in years. The baby kicked gently as if cheering with the crowd. Back at the curb, Ethan opened the car door for her. Before she stepped in, he touched her arm lightly. Claire, he said softly, I'm proud of you. She looked up at him, the man who protected her without conditions, who respected her strength, who saw her long before she saw herself. Ethan. Her voice trembled. I wouldn't have survived this without you. He shook his head. You survived because you're extraordinary. Her coat caught the breeze. Her hair glowed under the city lights. Her hand rested proudly over her baby. A reporter shouted, Miss Whitmore, what do you want to say to the people who doubted you? Claire paused, then answered in a steady, heartfelt voice. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for truth. And for every woman who has ever been silenced, doubted, or dismissed, I hope my story reminds you that your voice matters. Cameras flashed. Applause broke out. It was the beginning of her life finally turning toward love, peace, and the happiness she had earned with every scar, every tear, every victory. So, that's how our story closes tonight. And if you're still here, still listening with us until this very moment, then something in Claire's journey must have touched your heart in a way only real pain and real healing can. Maybe it reminded you of your own battles. Maybe of a storm you survived quietly. Sometimes the betrayal, the heartbreak, the injustice, those very wounds become the doorway to your new life. So, if you're carrying something heavy tonight, breathe. You're not alone. And your story isn't over. If this journey spoke to you, even a little, I'd love for you to like this video, share it with someone who needs strength, and subscribe so you can walk with us through the next story. You matter here. Always. Sometimes the betrayal, the heartbreak, the injustice, those very wounds become the doorway to your new life. So, if you're carrying something heavy tonight, breathe. You're not alone. And your story isn't over. If this journey spoke to you, even a little, I'd love for you to like this video, share it with someone who needs strength, and subscribe so you can walk with us through the next story. You matter here. Always.